Hello, this is Heeresgruppe, and this is Unit of Command 2 Barbarossa DLC Heeresgruppe Mitte mission on hard. 3, 2, 1. Heeresgruppe Mitte. I kind of enjoy this scenario, but I think out of the Heeresgruppe missions, or the first 3 missions of the first conference, I think this has the biggest potential for being frustrating, and it's largely not in the south. So you've got one army group, 2 panzer groups attacking into the center of the front, and so the southern parts of it is generally largely trivial. It's not too difficult. There are a couple of things you need to worry about. The north can be tricky, and especially at the beginning, you might be dependent on... not entirely dependent, but slightly dependent on lucky rolls. So let's see what I'm doing. So the first thing, the way I actually treat and handle Grodno, and I've mentioned it in my cracking video, my approach to this hasn't changed on hard, so is to not to try and attack Grodno like frontally, like from the bridge, via the bridge in the southwest. My approach is to take, build pontoon bridges north of Grodno and cross the river there and try and take it. It can be sometimes I've got unlucky and just wasn't able to take it on time and I had to restart the mission. But I think this is a more viable solution. By the way, killing this tank will help you a lot. So if you sustain some damage... I actually sustained a bit too much damage there, but killing it, and actually didn't kill it. But taking Alitus and controlling those bridges next to it is valuable. It is a nice tactical advantage, meaning that you will able to rush towards Vilnius, which I think, in addition to Grodno, is the hardest objective in this entire mission. Sometimes when I just started with Mitte, I was like having a hard time, very hard time, reaching Vilnius on turn 3. It was very difficult because the Soviets will bring crap loads of troops there. They will reinforce it hard, and actually killing that tank. Oh, by the way, killing that tank is important. Yeah, preventing them from having too much time to reinforce Vilnius. In the center, as you can see, I am advancing towards Bialystok. It's slightly dangerous because the Soviets have a bunch of mechanized and tank units there, and you really need to advance there. But be careful. The Soviets might counterattack there, and I'll probably see something like that. In Brest, or Brest, the Polish name of the town and fortress. So I've tried. By God, I've tried. There's no way of not using both of these flying artillery cards, uses, tokens, whatever you call them. So you need to use flying artillery there twice to actually break through. I've tried it on classic, I've tried it on hard. It just doesn't work. Obviously on hard it's not going to work, but even on classic, on the easier classic, which has easier vessels, it's virtually impossible to destroy Brest without two flying artillery uses. And oh, interesting. The Soviets are getting reinforcements there. So yeah, just use both of them. You really don't need... Actually, in fairness, and as you can see, the Soviets are counterattacking and attacking my artillery. It's not a problem. My point is to get my infantry, as much infantry as close to Bialystok from the outset, because these guys are going to run out of supply pretty soon. So I'm not really worried. So a little bit of losses, it's not a big deal. On classic, it's slightly less, not as bad, but they will still try to counterattack. Back to flying artillery, you really don't need anywhere. Maybe in Vilnius a little bit, but if you do things right, it's not a big deal either. So pretty much Brest is the only thing where you really need the flying artillery, and well, just use it there and advance as quickly as possible, because actually speed is more important here than having super concentrated firepower from the air. Alright, and the Soviets are, as you can see, case in point, the Soviets are concentrating their units in Vilnius, and it's gonna get hairy there, and really destroying that tank division, or really severely damaging it. Thankfully, it did not get any supplies, so it's still suppressed, so I'll probably kill it next turn, because I don't exactly remember. I played this mission about a week and a few days ago, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. And so, And as you can see, in the south, I'm advancing very quickly, very far with my tanks, and you will see what I'm trying to do. But right now, it's turn 2, it's very critical, and I'll try to take Grodno, because this is the hardest bit, probably of the entire mission. Like, doing it right and forcing the Soviets to retreat, because you don't have much space, and I'm getting lucky, and I'm probably cursing everything right now. I think I still attacked across the river because I saw that there wouldn't be enough space. And now, my goal and hope is to force them to surrender, even though in that particular situation where the Soviet division had 3 suppressed and 1 non-suppressed step, the probability of retreat was probably like 90 or even 100%. So I would definitely force them to retreat. Alright, so Grodno's mine, and I'm advancing towards Vilnius, and I will happily destroy that tank division. Okay, it's dead. Thankfully, and so yeah, so I think I'm doing pretty well there. Obviously, I finished this mission with successfully with a gold medal, and gradually mopping up everything in the north. It's not that big of a deal. Come on, like still sustaining damage there, but yes, it's important for these guys to just leave, so that I can keep like not guard the supply hub and everything. So be. By the way, that Leer division I've decided to move it, to use it in the north and not use it like around Lomzha or Womzha and everything. I don't know, I found it to be those area, like the area around Bialystok, except for the south, to be really, you just keep sort of a perimeter there, perimeter defense, and not attack. You don't have enough troops to begin with, and so, as you can see, this is what I'm trying to do here. So it's turn 2, and both of the railways feeding Bialystok are cut now. So this is what you need to do on turn 2 with your with your Panzergruppe 2. So these guys need to cut the railway between Slonim and Bialystok, so that, because you have to take Grodno, and Grodno is the other railway feeding Bialystok, and so you need to capture that railway leading from Slonim. That's required. That's required. And so actually this position was actually not very lucky. Usually the Soviets had a cavalry division between Slonim and Brest. Usually they don't. Sometimes it's just you send a tank division there and don't worry about anything. This time it was slightly harder, but well, oh well, sometimes it happens. So it's just another testament to how well this approach works, even like if you get unlucky or if you make mistakes. Like this one, so the Soviets got the tanks decided to attack, but that's pretty much their last attack in their entire lives. So they're gonna die, and I actually got lucky. I forced them to, like, I effectively lured them towards Womzha, and didn't lose too much of the for that pleasure. Right, and so the Soviets are advancing and trying to reinforce Vilnius. Vilnius is kind of critical right now, and I remember actually worrying that would not be able to take Vilnius because it's pretty well protected. Like, there's someone around it. The hexes around it are occupied, and I'm not touching Vilnius at the end of the previous turn, which is a good rule of thumb. So if you're trying to take a difficult objective, make sure you have someone standing in a hex next to it the turn before, right? So if, like, you have to take to Vilnius on turn 3, make sure there's someone touching Vilnius at the end of turn 2, and I failed to do that, as you can see. But I knew I had to take it, so I sacrificed some of my tanks, and it's absolutely worth it. Well, probably not worth it in terms of level ups and everything, but even though, to be honest, the HQ level up ability bonus is kind of strong. I would always prefer it to, I don't know, a Junkers 52 card that gives you emergency supply, because it's kind of, as I mentioned, it's like one of the worst cards, the worst card in the entire game, and obviously the HQ upgrades can be valuable. Also, by the way, speaking of HQ upgrades, I've found it's something like, it's something I kept doing in Classic. I generally never spent any prestige on more valuable abilities or giving my HQs more command points. I was kind of stingy about it. And I'd say don't be too stingy. Be reasonable, obviously. You need prestige to buy specialist steps, most of all. But actually getting your tank group, Panzergruppe, like one of your Panzergruppers, like 8 or 9 command points instead of 7 is extremely powerful. Like, especially like the transition from 7 to 8, meaning that even without any level ups, you can give oversupply to 2 units instead of 1. It's extremely powerful. So I know it's somewhat expensive, but don't be too stingy, especially later in the game. But in general, later in the game, I found that if you do play the game right, if you succeed all the time and do like everything 100%, you get crap loads of prestige at the end of the by the end of the campaign, and prestige you really don't need. You don't get enough specialist steps to spend it on, and don't have enough. Your reserve of card is not big enough. You've just got 3 on hard to buy any more cards. So just get those upgrades for HQs. They're valuable. And by the way, like I forgot, like I'm just missed it as I was talking about HQ upgrades. The Pinsk objective, yeah, which shows up right now. Don't forget about it. It's usually not well protected or not protected at all. In this case, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just leave a division there, but it's very easy to take, and it's somewhat easy to miss. Because actually, previous to this try, I had a much more successful try, and it was perfect. I did extremely well, lost very little, got so much more luck than this time, and I forgot about Pinsk. I forgot about bloody Pinsk, and yes, I failed the mission, effectively, by my standards. Obviously, I took Minsk on turn 5. I don't think you can take it on turn 4 earlier, but turn 5 is reasonable. By the way, Bialystok is mine. As you can see, they're running out of supply, and it's just really, like, right now is just, these guys are just for farming experience, and they're just experience fodder. I don't remember why. I know why I went for these guys before they completely ran out of supply, because I wanted the railway line, so leading from Grodno towards Vilnius, so that the guys in Vilnius, that area is rather difficult to supply. So at this point, I realized that okay, so let's clear that railway and provide my guys with proper supplies. And hopefully, oh no, I didn't. All right, this is going to be troublesome. So I'm assuming I'm going to feed on Soviet supplies at this point, because that infantry division did not retreat as I hoped it would, and so I'm moving those motorized units in so that they all get the resupply as I take the hub. Okay, and so even though, to be honest, I really don't need these guys to take Minsk and everything, their goal is Vilnius. Once Vilnius is theirs, the rest is kind of, alright. If you want to advance, yes, but they're probably not going to help around Minsk, or not help too much around Minsk, because as you can see, the Soviets have gathered crap loads of troops between Minsk and Molodechno, and they usually do. So, yeah, don't expect it to work that well. So, provide them with supply, advance towards Molodechno and Minsk, because still, experience is great. Experience is valuable in this game. And so, yeah, go ahead and kill them. Just in case, so that they don't outmaneuver, outflank me or you. So it's still a good idea, but don't expect them to be decisively important in taking Minsk. Alright, and I'm already starting with the rather tedious task of mopping up everything and getting all that juicy and shiny experience. Juicy and shiny, it's like bacon and all that pork fat in it. Yes, let's talk about food. Alright, so these guys are advancing. The Soviets really can't do anything at this point, even though you should still guard your bridges. Don't forget to guard your bridges, because the Soviets will screw with you. The AI will screw with you, even if it's suicidal. It knows how to screw with you. And so, I found, to be honest, the AI to be rather nasty. I think they've modified it for Barbarossa compared to Blitzkrieg, and sometimes I've got like this. Is this a human? Is this a human trying to spite me? Trying to prevent me from getting a 100% result, like, even though they're not winning either. It's that kind. I got that kind of feeling, because, like, I made, like, late mission mistakes, where the Soviets just managed to break through and take one of the critical objectives I had to hold. This happened in Yelnya. when I lost Yartsevo, of all places, even though the Soviets sometimes try to take it. And they like, oh, like, I've taken everything. Last turn, I've taken Chernigov, I've kept Yelnya, lost a bunch of divisions there. Did all of that. And yet, last Soviet turn, and they just attack Yartsevo and just break through to it, like, lose crap loads of troops themselves, destroy a bunch of my troops. And yes, it's Yartsevo's theirs, and I've lost the mission. The same thing happened in Odessa. It's like the AI I think, is one of the hallmarks of this game. I think it's very strong. It's extremely strong in this game. And it's a source of frustration and enjoyment when you realize how well it works. Alright, so Minsk is mine, right on time, and by this point, the mission is pretty much over, so the Soviets are largely routed. Bobruisk is... I've never seen Bobruisk defended, ever. So Bobruisk is not going to be defended. Borisov is defended, and I actually have failed this mission once because I just didn't have enough troops to take it, or like just no one with movement points to take it. I actually forced those guys to retreat, and I just didn't have anyone with movement points to take Borisov, and had to replay the mission because of that. So, but this time, yeah, as you can see, I got plenty of firepower and have two turns to handle this. So yeah, so Borisov is going to be mine, and we'll see how it goes. At this point, I'm just mopping everything up, continuing to mop everything up. And finally, my guys around Vilnius are going to be properly supplied, and just doing all of that cleanup. At some points, yeah, I kind of worried that the Soviets would try to cut my supply lines, but not anymore. Especially these completely out of supply guys that don't move as far, and they only capture areas where they end up. So if you move, if you didn't know that, so if this kind of completely out of supply unit with these black exclamation marks, so if they move, they don't across enemy terrain, they don't capture that enemy terrain, except for the hex they end up in. All right, so it's much more difficult for these units to try and screw with you, like cut supply lines and everything. But they still can do it. It's just more difficult, and I think it's a good trade-off, because obviously these units are extremely weak and can't do anything. But well, yes, they still occupy areas and everything. So yeah, you still have to clear them, and they can, I don't know, block trains and everything, and roads. Because effectively, this kind of mechanics already exists in the game. So with all the stragglers which blocking your way and everything. So yeah, I know. Okay, and I'm gonna finish with this. Right, we'll see how I take Borisov, and I think we'll end this because it's getting tedious and it's like really pointless. You know how to kill out of supply enemy. Really, nobody needs a guide on how to kill oversupply enemies, even though on hard, even oversupply suppressed steps still can deal damage, right? And because your opponents on hard gets a significant battle bonus, yes, sometimes it can be dangerous to attack these completely out of supply units because they will kick your ass. Well, they'll not kick your ass, but will inflict annoying damage. So let's see what's valuable I do on turn 6. Certainly, like, compared to Classic, it's... compared to Classic, you really can't use your weak divisions to attack these out-of-supply units because you will sustain damage. They're just too weak. If, like 2 or 3 steps, it can be dangerous. Alright, so I'm advanced with Borisov using air supply. All of the air supply I've got. All me air supplies. And I think I forced them to retreat. Yes! And so Borisov is mine. Alright, so from here on, it's going to be just destroying all of the stragglers. And I think this is it for today's mission. Bobruisk is also mine. Bloody hell! As you can see, it's completely empty. So, alright, so this is it for today. And I'm guessing we'll see something muddy and dirty tomorrow. Cheers!